Guys, welcome back to my next video. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce to you guys what are called decision structures, or if-else statements, or the if statement, right? Basically, you're probably wondering what exactly are decision structures. Well, let's say for example, if I wanted a certain condition to be met, right? And when that condition is met, something's gonna happen. For example, if you pay $50 ticket, you get to go inside. You get to go inside the movie theater, right? Even though it's kind of bizarre that movie tickets cost $50 for entry, right? But that's basically like a decision, right? You made a decision to meet the requirements, and you are able to go inside the movie theater, right? It's similar like in Java, where when a certain condition is met, something happens, or something does not happen, right? Well, one thing happens and something else does not happen. Like these are what decision structures are, right? And for example, we're going to be using the if statement, to create this decision structure flow, and it allows one program to have multiple execution paths rather than just one, right? Because we're just in this case, in our previous videos, we were just programming, and we were just only doing things in a certain way, like everything was being executed. But what if we want only a certain road? What if we wanted to go a certain road rather than going another road, right? Like what if we split everything into two different roads all of a sudden, and we wanted to go either way, right? Like think about it like that. So when it comes to decision structures, you're going to be using if statements, right? We're going to get into cases later, or I'm sorry, switch statements later. We're not going to worry about that right now. So let's go ahead and make sure you guys have your new class and have all your stuff written out. What I'm going to do is I'm going to declare a variable called int num1, and what this is going to do is I'm just going to enter a number later, okay? And I want to tell the user to print out a number between 1 and 10, okay? So enter number between 1 and 10. And this also includes the numbers 1 and 10 as well. Okay? So now you're going to initialize your variable to have the user input it and store it in the variable. Okay, whoops. Alright, so now we're done with that. So they're going to enter a number, right? So basically, normally, right, let's see, system.out.println, right? If I just had the user, enter a number between 1 and 10, right, they can enter something like 20, and then it'll still print it out. But I only want this number to print out only when the number is 1 through 10, right? I only want this statement to print out only when the number is 1 through 10. And this is just like a basic example. You can think of other examples. Let's say if you're trying to create a program resolving like a bank account, if they enter a number that's negative, you're going to want it to say, oh yeah, you cannot withdraw negative balance, or you cannot deposit negative balance, you know what I mean? Because that just doesn't make sense in the real world. Okay? So I'm going to delete this real quick, and I'm going to rewrite it later. So in this case, this is where we can start off with our if statement. So basically, if, right, I want it to say if something, right, if it satisfies this Boolean expression, which I will introduce right now, if it satisfies this Boolean condition, then this will happen, or else this will happen, right? Something else will happen. So you start off with if, parentheses, right? And inside the parentheses is where your Boolean condition will go, right? And basically the Boolean condition can either be true or false. Like we learned about Booleans before. They can be true or false, right? So inside over here, a Boolean can either be true or false. So basically the number can either be in the range of 1 through 10, or it can be outside the range 1 through 10, right? And basically I want it to print something out. Like I want something to happen when they enter in something that is the number 1 through 10, right? So in order for that to happen, we have to obviously write a conditional statement. And to do that, well, you got to make sure you know what your relational operators are. And these are called relational operators. You have your greater than, less than, you have your less than equal to, greater than equal to, you have your equals to, which is used to compare specific things, like you don't use those to compare like strings. You can use those to compare numbers, but we'll show you a different method to compare strings. And then you can use the not equals, which is exclamation mark and one equal sign, and that just means not equals. Okay, not equal. So just remember these operations, because you're going to be using them a lot, trust me. So I want to write a statement or a Boolean condition where if they enter the number between 1 through 10, I'm going to print out the number and something funny, right? So to do that, well, we need to take our variable that holds our data, right? So in this case, it's num1. Right, and if this is basically saying if num1 and then something, right, we can use one of these relational operators, to form a condition, right? So for example, well, obviously I want them to enter a number that is greater than 1 right? So I'm gonna, and also it can be 1 also. So I'm gonna use the greater than equals to sign. So if num1 is greater than or equal to 1, right, then we can go ahead. Make sure you have your curly braces too, right? You must have curly braces if you're trying to write like a whole block of statements in your if condition. If in your if in your if code, right, in your if structure. Okay. So I want to print out system dot print line. Um, you entered num1. Okay. Congrats. There. And there we go, right? And if I run this program, let's say you entered 2. Congrats. All right, cool. But like, see, that doesn't satisfy what we want to do though. We want to make sure if they enter in something that's greater than 10, right, an error will happen. But if we enter 20 right now, like this program still runs. So what we need to do is we have to use a logical operator, right? And logical operators are basically, I'll write them down. Logical operators include and, which is and, or, right? And I'm pretty sure these are the only 2 that we have so far. There's and or, right? So usually in Java you'll learn about these, but you also learn about these in discrete math as well. But basically, the and operator, which is using 2 ands, right? This is basically true, like it's true when both propositions or both conditions are true. For example, so think about it like this. This is one conditional statement, and we're gonna write another one, right? And we're gonna use the and logical operator, and num1 is less than or equal to 10, right? So what this statement is saying is if the number in num1 is greater than or equal to 1, and the number in num1 is less than or equal to 10, this will print out, right? However, if the number in num1 is false, like if this statement is false, for example, if the number is not greater than num1, right? Let's say if this was false, anything false and true is always going to be false, and this is just truth values, right? You'll learn about these later on. I might make another video talking about them, right? But I'm not really going to go in depth too much because this is mostly Java. But you just have to understand truth values. But I'll make another video talking about it later and going in depth about it. But just understand that when it comes to the AND logical operator, both conditions must be met. They must be true. So if you had like a number, even though the number is less than 10, but it's not greater than 1, this statement will still not run. If you enter -1, it's like one of the statements are true, but because we're using the AND operator, right? That's the condition is false, right? So now, once we've written our if-else, we've written an if statement so far, and now we want to write an else statement, right? The else statement, well, there's actually the else if and the else statement. The else if is basically used as like a secondary statement, right? So let's say, for example, if this statement is false, like the requirements for the statement has not been met, it'll immediately go to the next else if statement, right? Right? And then if the else if statement condition is not met, it'll go to the next else if statement, and it'll go to the next else if, and then it will just keep going until you have an else statement, or until you're at the last else if statement. Basically, that's just how it works, and I'll show you guys how to do that right now. So before I end this video, I'll just show you this last example. So let's say, for example, they entered a number that is out of the range between less than 1 or greater than 10. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write a logical operator, or I'm going to use logical operators to kind of like conjoin these two Boolean expressions. Okay, so I'm going to use if num1 is less than 1, right? Notice how I'm not doing less than or equals to, because the first one I'm doing equals to, greater than or equal to, and I want them to be able to enter 1, so I'm just doing less than 1. If num1 is less than 1 and num1 is greater than 10, right, I'm going to have it say system.out.println you entered a number that was out of range, and I'll probably just concatenate the number just so they can know, right? And I think that's pretty much it for now. So let's just see what happens when we run the program. If we enter 20, what happened over here? Something happened. Something went wrong. I don't know what happened. We entered 20. and something was supposed to print out. Let's try it again. That was weird. Oh wait, that was an accident. Why is this not printing out? This is if no. Oh, I see, I see, I see. Yeah, I made a mistake. So, okay. So basically, the mistake that I made right over here, and if you probably haven't guessed already, if you figured it out, then that's good for you, and you just literally solved my mistake. But basically, the mistake I made was rather than using and, because what happened over there was I entered 25, right? And this is what I'm talking about when it comes to the AND operator. Both conditions have to be met. Both conditions must be met, right? So if I enter 25, right, even though it's greater than 10, it's not less than 1. That means this entire thing is false and this will never execute, right? So to fix this, we can just use the OR operator, which you use to, I don't know what these signs are called, but this is just the OR operator in Java. And what this means is either one of these can be true and everything will be true, right? If one thing is false but the other thing is true, then the entire statement is true. If both are false, then everything is false. But with the OR operator, as long as one condition is met, then it will execute. So let's actually try it out. So this will definitely do a trick. 11. There we go. You entered a number that was out of range 11. Okay, and let's try another one. You entered a number that was out of range 0. So hopefully this gives you guys a good example of how decision structures work. I'm going to go make another in-depth video in my next video. So if you guys don't understand this, just feel free to watch the next video, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.